And we're looking at an ACT science question involving conflicting viewpoints. So in this question we're asked, scientist 1 would most likely counter scientist 2's argument against the corporate introduction of non-native trees by arguing that, or by arguing which of the following. So the first thing that we need to do is understand scientist 2's argument against the corporate introduction of non-native trees. So scientist 2 argues that as new forests are planted by private companies for commercial use, I'm looking right here, they often feature the introduction of trees that are monetarily valuable as opposed to those that work best within the ecosystems that they are introduced to. So we see they say that they damage the ecosystems and decrease biodiversity, and then they have some other arguments about specific species. So what we need to do two things. We need to support our answer with evidence from scientist 1's passage. So there needs to be evidence for the exact thing that is in the answer, the exact statement, or there needs to at least be evidence for whatever inference we're going to make, because it actually says that scientist 1 would most likely counter. So there's probably not going to be direct, it's not going to be directly printed in the passage. So let's see what we have here. The introduction of non-native trees actually increases biodiversity, creating a supportive environment for local plants and animals. Now, there's nothing in here that says that there's only one portion of scientist 1's passage that says what afforestation, or the introduction of new trees, does positively. It says that it includes the prevention of soil erosion and the increased absorption of atmospheric carbon. Now, scientist 2 directly says that it decreases biodiversity. So it seems unlikely that scientist 1 would counter by denying that unless we had evidence for it. The damage done by afforestation and non-native trees is insignificant compared to the damage that corporations would otherwise inflict on natural forests. So this one will also require an inference. So let's see here. It says in scientist 1's passage, it says that lumber and paper companies place a strain on the trees of our natural forests, and that planting new forests for harvesting makes it so that the companies have trees to harvest without destroying natural forest environments. So it's basically saying if they didn't introduce these new trees, they would destroy natural forests. So this seems like a pretty good option. Let's see if we can rule out the other options. The damage done by the introduction of non-native trees is not as significant as many scientists believe. This isn't stated in the passage, and it's a pretty vague statement. The introduction of pesticides is just as damaging to local rivers as is the introduction of acidic pine leaves. Now, this is also not stated in scientist 1's passage. They don't get into the specifics of local rivers or pesticides or acidic pine leaves. This is information that's only in scientist 2's passage, so it would be too big of a leap to say that scientist 1 would compare these two things. So we're going to go with this answer choice right here about comparing the damage to what corporations would otherwise do.